you walk in there, you meet with the team for the first time. What was that like? Because a bunch of those guys were hurting. They were thinking whether they need to leave or not. Some of them did leave. Like a bunch of them did leave. But you kind of found out quickly.
They were almost all gone before I got in the team room.
But you found out real quick kind of who you could get in the foxhole with.
Yeah, real quick. I think this is the group that chose to stay, right? They didn't choose me, but they chose the Power T, and I did too. And that was kind of the common bond between us. And that opening team meeting, I think, was really important just for them to gain insight and in some ways gain some trust. There was a lot of trust that had to be built in the coming months, but it was really important. And you walk in there, you don't recognize almost every face. There were a few that I had recruited, so recognized them as I was talking to them. Some I knew were on the roster, some I didn't, and so it was a great beginning spot. So those first few months, like, you just had no juice in recruiting at all, and I just kept saying, look, guys, like, all these other schools are, it's not necessarily negative recruiting. They're just, I mean, I guess you could say it is, but at the same time, it's kind of just like, hey, they're presenting doubt, like Tennessee's going to get with an 8-year bowl ban, a 6-year bowl ban, and these parents, they don't know. Yeah. They're just, do I listen to the coach that's potentially going at a program going on probation, or do I listen to the one that's not? So they're trying to figure things out. Then you get a little bit of momentum, which started with Elijah Herring, an in-state kid. Take me through that time. Was it like kind of like, God, we just need something to fall our way? And then when it eventually did, then, started to steamroll a little bit. Yeah, with all the uncertainty outside of our program, you had to create the buy-in from the guys that were inside of the program. Sure. And then you had to start letting people see that. And it's in the middle of COVID, so nobody was really around the program. And so you're truly trying to sell, who you are, what you're doing, and what the culture is, and how, you're changing things while you're doing it over a Zoom call. Nobody gets a chance to see anything tangibly. And one of the hardest things that, myself and our staff went through, and, Elijah's recruitment, him buying into what we were doing was a huge part of us kind of springboarding our first class that we would eventually sign. And smart, tough, competitive, couldn't pick anybody better to be kind of the tip of the sword on that side of it. And that started to change a little bit of the narrative. Once we got through spring ball, we got into the summer, and people were able to start coming around and being around the facility. They could tell that, there were some things that had changed and were changing inside of Tennessee football. You wasn't that first year, and you go 7-5 in the regular season. Just got some momentum, had some fun, won some games, scored some points. And it just felt like at that point, like, you got to that point where you actually were able to show tangible proof. And by that point, recruits could be on campus again and stuff. Kind of just take me through that first year. To me, will that be your kind of special group? But just because what they were, what they inherited, and kind of the fact they overachieved to get to where they were. Yeah, these two classes will go down. And I'm talking about the senior classes will go down as a group that changed the future of Tennessee football, and in some ways saved it as we started to rebuild the cornerstone pieces to what it's going to be as we move forward. Guys that bought in to us immediately, and typically, there's a lot of pushback when you take over a program from a senior class that just lost a coach. They're skeptical about what's going to happen. They also see themselves, as only having another 10, 11 months inside of the program. It's hard sometimes to get them to buy in and become great leaders inside your program. In some ways, they got to sell, the head coach's vision, and that group of individuals did an unbelievable job of buying in and creating a culture within our locker room, and slowly but surely answering the questions about who and what we're going to be. And there's those questions at every stop. When you start your off-season program, when you start spring ball, when you start your summer training, when you start training camp, how do you handle a win? How do you handle failure during the season? There's all those things that are completely unknown. Nobody has anything to fall back on, and they did a great job of leading us. And you said one of the key things I think is our players and our staff, they do have fun. And that year we had fun competing together every single day on the practice field, but then competing with each other and for each other when we got to game day. And I think that's one of the things that reinvigorized our fan base too, is they saw the way way that our players competed. They could tell that they were prepared, and they could tell that they loved one another.
That whole off season, I just felt like the fans had kind of they had kind of rose to the occasion for 15 years, and finally they hit their breaking point where it's like, I'm taking a wait and see approach here, and it was a loss, but I think it was the Ole Miss game where they were like, okay, because you're coming off Missouri and South Carolina. 2 wins where you kind of scored points and flipped some momentum, and then even in the loss at Ole Miss, you could just tell the fans were like, "This is our guy." This is, all of a sudden they started to it was like, okay, we're back in again. Could you feel that?
Yeah, I felt like they started to truly believe that on any given Saturday we were going to have a chance to win a football game, and it grew from hope to belief inside of our fan base, and that's kind of what our team did too. When we started the season, I think we were hoping to win on game day, and then kind of moved to believing that we were going to accomplish those things. And I don't blame our fan base at all. It's been some tough years, but at the same time, you could tell the passion and the love that the fan base has for our players and for this program. And it's been a fun journey, kind of resurrecting and rebuilding it with them.
Hey, thanks so much for watching the video here at Volquest on YouTube, the leading source of University of Tennessee football, basketball, and recruiting. Be sure to check out our latest video right here and our latest live show right above it. All that at Volquest.com and Volquest on YouTube.